60 miles an hour, bolted right past her, jumps up a bunch of rocks.
They do that. Up to their hearts feet or something.
He did that little like, did that little hardcore thing when they like jump from there. It was just like, he just went ding, 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 ding. And we were just like, wow, like, baby, just like, bounce around on the rocks like that. Definitely sure-footed. I have hard times going up the trail, I'm not sure, but.
Like to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. By accident.
Oh, no. Still got it. Yeah, it's hard.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. That's hard. If you want to do something like this. I had there. That finishing down. We were just gonna go down.
Good morning. I will call the August 6, 2024 Norfolk Planning Commission meeting to order. Inform the public of the Open Meetings Act in the northwest corner and ask for roll.
Wait.
Here.
Sock. Bryant.
Here.
Hupkey. Franklin.
Here.
Kuby. Here. Griffith.
Here.
Mason. Ronfelt.
Here.
And ask for approval of the full agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. All planning commission members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Consideration and approval of the minutes from the July 16, 2024 Planning Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
All planning commission members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
And open up the public hearing to consider the 25th Street and Benjamin Avenue Blight and Substandard Study.
Good morning, Plan Commission. I'm Jeff Ray with JEO Consulting Group. I have a brief presentation I just want to go through. I know you're fairly familiar with blight and substandard determinations, but I also want to make sure general public is aware of what we're doing, so I'll go through this rather quickly. Many of you have obviously seen me here before and talked about some of these similar items that we've done for the city as well as other private developers. So this is a 60-acre blight study area. Under the Nebraska Community Development Law, you can declare an area blighted and substandard. That is an ugly economic development name for a tool, economic development tool that we get to use for potential for tax increment financing and a redevelopment plan, and all of those steps come later. So right now, the first step that's really before you is there substantial evidence to declare the area blighted and substandard, as you would refer that on to City Council. The next step would be then a general list redevelopment plan, which would obviously come back before you again as to whether it conforms with your regulations and your comprehensive plan. And then ultimately a contract with the CDA to create tax increment financing, should it get to that level. So quickly, the items that are in the state statute, and I'll summarize those quickly, are a substantial number of deteriorating buildings, insanitary, unsafe conditions, deterioration of the site and or other conditions, decreasing population. The average age of structures is more than 40 years of age, economic and social liabilities to the area. Is there a diversity of ownership? Has there been improper or obsolete platting? Is half of the area inside the city and been unimproved for 40 years? Is there a high density population, overcrowding, and are there any special taxes? So those are the blight characteristics summary, and then the substandard characteristics are very similar. Again, dilapidation, deterioration of age or obsolescence of structures, dangerous conditions to life and property, inadequate light and air, defective unusual conditions of title, a high unemployment rate, and a low per capita income. So the study area, as I mentioned, is a 60-acre area, generally northwest of 25th and Benjamin. It is a area that has been inside the city for a substantial period of time, not quite the 40 years, I think it's like 38. So quite a while, remained undeveloped, and primarily it has been subdivided off. There's a couple structures in this area. One home that had burned down and a garage is the only thing that remains that's there. Then we have a medical clinic on the corner, and then another home that is being renovated in the far north. So we followed defined property lines, which is very typical, and looked at this as a potential opportunity for some infill and redevelopment that would potentially take place here, as it's been skipped over for development in the past. So as we look at some of those characteristics that I mentioned, there are some obsolete platting and lot layouts there. There's some very odd shapes, as you can see, that aren't very conducive to building. Some very large lots and long and skinny, make challenge for access purposes. There's one lot that's actually landlocked. At least the adjacent parcels are also owned by the same property owner, so they do have access from that perspective. And then there's a need for some additional subdivision to spur development onto this particular area. Okay. The deterioration of site and other improvements. The roads were rated fair or poor. And you can see here, this one lacks curb and gutter, very close to the sidewalk. The individual properties really lack most developments. There's not paved roads or anything. There are some remnants of previous development that have been there, and most of it is overgrown with trees and potential fire hazards as well. Okay. As I mentioned, the transportation in the area. The street grid's been built out to be connected to this area, but it is not. So we need to continue that pattern on with your urban development. There's a lack of sidewalks, particularly along Benjamin. There's one on 25th that is in good shape, but pedestrian-wise, it's a challenge to walk through this area and feel a little bit unsafe as you walk right next to the road. There's a lack of some curb and gutter to control some of the storm drainage purposes, and so forth. Okay. Then potentially unsafe conditions. There's some older structures there that could potentially have lead paint in them, those types of things. There's some debris piles that are around there that harbor vermin and or rodents that can carry disease to humans and other pets. As well as potential for fire hazard from those, as well as some of the other natural grass fires that can potentially happen in some of these areas in close proximity to urban development. There's also some drainage issues with a silted in culvert, and evidence of erosion that had taken place in some of those areas. There's a road then that obviously just dead ends with a street sign on a dead end street sign, which I don't think anybody probably has ever tried to drive through there, but could create some potential hazard. The age of structure, again, I mentioned, so two of those were found to be greater than 40 years. The third one, we don't really know because it's just the garage and the house is gone, so we made the assumption that it was not, and just to be safe on that side. So of the three structures, those were there. So as we turned on all the layers to say in the GIS system, where are of these characteristics? Are they all in one parcel or not, or are they spread throughout? We did find that they were spread throughout, and at least one characteristic was found on all of those parcels. And then therefore we were making the recommendation that to you as Planning Commission that you would find that 8 of the 12 blighted characteristics were present, and 2 of the 4 substandard characteristics we found to be present, for a total of 10 of the 16. And that was our recommendation, that the area met the state statute criteria for blighted and substandard to potentially be redeveloped. So, all right, I threw quite a bit at you. If you have any questions for me, the developer, property owner, and client is also here, Pete Becker, if you have questions for him as well.
Do you guys determine that this property would be, or this project would be unfeasible if not for this blight and substandard determination?
So, like I talked about, kind of being, that's a little bit further down the line, but that's the indication as to where we're at now, and we call it an assumption going into the property, that's why it's not developed over the last 38 years, that there's some financial feasibility issue or hurdle to get through, but that detail would automatically come out and has to come out, and the city council has to make that finding when we get to that TIF stage. But so I can't definitively answer that, but it's the assumption at this point, yes.
Can you go back to, on your presentation, yeah, there you go, the criteria, thank you.
The business on the corner by the roundabout, that,
Medical office?
yeah, is that, so that one's run down in your opinion?
No, I think it received an adequate rating.
Okay,
But there is lack of some sidewalks, and there's also some debris and some overgrowth on the periphery of that property that met some of those criteria. The structural conditions of the three were not a contributing factor.
Any other questions for Jeff? Or the property owner? Thanks, Jeff. This is a public hearing. Anyone else like to speak on this topic? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and open for discussion.
well, feels like a lot like the other one we did, what was it, last meeting, 2 meetings ago?
East Benjamin.
Yeah. Seems a lot like that one. Obviously you wanna see an area like this developed, but again, there just seems to be, and it's nothing we do, but there just seems to be a loophole in the blight and substandard determination that's being exploited. Yes, it meets the criteria. We have the picture right in front of us, but again, it meets it on paper, but when you look at it, it doesn't meet it in my eyes. Mentioned a substantial number of deteriorating structures. There are 3 structures on the property. To me, that doesn't seem very substantial, in my opinion. Granted, yes, 1 burned down, but there is a home being renovated, as he mentioned. There's a business there, looks good, no problems there. And then as for the field itself, it just looks like a typical field that you would see in the country, or in this case, in town. And then I know you can't take the houses around it into consideration, but those houses are $700,000 houses. I mean, they're very nice. If this was in a different side of town, I mean, you might be able to make the argument, but this is a very, very nice side of town. And I just can't wrap my head around it being blight and substandard.
I spent a full hour on Saturday driving and walking this area and came to the same conclusion. After our last meeting, thought we need to do a little more looking into these things, and while I see the criteria too, and I don't know what we can do about that, I need to put it out there that I feel like there is a loophole, there is a situation here where we're taking areas that don't fit what I think this is meant for, and using them in a way to use TIF. And I struggled in an hour to locate the pictures and the things that we saw on the study. And to me, if it's a blight and substandard area, those things should be obvious, and they were not obvious. So I feel like we're kind of a bit held by the criteria, but I do think there's going to need to be proposals for change down the road.
And again, I said it last meeting, and I'll say it again, you have the criteria, but ultimately it's before us, and there's a reason it's before us, because we have the determination to make. We're people, we're not a piece of paper.
I mean, I would echo the same thing that the two gentlemen said too, is I don't know why it hasn't been developed. To me, it seems like prime real estate. I get it, there's dips and valleys and whatnot in there too. But for the last 40 years that it hasn't been developed, there's gotta be a reason. And as far as the criteria, I agree that it's very, very liberal. Unsanitary or unsafe conditions, I can't buy that. It's a field. But deterioration of site, there's not a lot of sites to even be deteriorated. Endanger life or property, I can't buy that either, but it's just so liberal of criteria. I struggled really bad with the last one even, that we approved. I thought that one stunk. But this criteria is just not how I would. I want the legislature to re-examine the criteria, because I don't believe that this is TIF appropriate, but if it meets the criteria, it meets the criteria. There's not much we can do about it. But
I'd agree with all of the sentiments spoken, and especially for this area. But I guess I do want to also state or draw attention back to, I think, even the use of the language that this is a community development tool. The whole process of TIF is meant to drive development in our community, and that in several areas it has. And I think some of the development we've seen wouldn't have been possible without this entire process. So it is difficult, I'd agree. Like, seeing this area and thinking of the words blight and substandard, those words don't come to mind to describe the area. But as Jeff mentioned, they are sort of ugly terms to be used really for a community development tool. And yes, this area hasn't been developed for some reason, and maybe because of these reasons for 38 to 40 years. So I do just want to draw some attention back to, the overall TIF process being a tool, a community development tool and a development tool.
And although I would agree with sentiments of the other commissioners. Just want to point out that this property, once it does come back online for tax revenue, would produce a substantial amount of tax revenue as opposed to some areas that we've blighted in the past for redevelopment. Just wanted to make that point.
Based on everything around it. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to consider recommendation of the 25th Street and Benjamin Avenue Blight and Substandard Study.
Second.
Sorry, motion and a second. Please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, Franklin, Bryant, Waite, Kuby, Griffith. Voting in opposition, Ronfelt. Motion carries.
And I'd open up the public hearing at the request of Tom Metro's Mechanical LLC, a Nebraska Limited Liability Company, to consider a waiver of Highway Corridor Overlay District requirements on property addressed as 1300 South 3rd Street.
Hello, my name's Tom Buckles. I run Metro Plumbing and Heating. 1300 South 3rd is a property I purchased about 4 years ago, and the outlook of that was just basically for storage. I was put my vehicles in there for storage for whatever reasons. But anyway, now I'm looking to possibly build on to that, and anyway, we've got this corridor overlay where we have to look at, and that'd be on the north side of that property and east side of that property. Had a few meetings with permits and codes on this prior to this, because this is not my expertise to walk people through what I've got going on. But anyway, one of the engineers at that meeting kind of told me I could make maybe on the north side a drive path, because I'm looking to go to the south side to the property line for the build. So I kind of did that. I have Cubes trucks comes in for the my supplies and stuff. So I basically took one of the bigger trucks, what we deal with out of Omaha, and have him drive through, and I just marked the outskirts of his vehicle, and this is what I came up with. Different codes what you guys have there with the 50-foot tree line and the bush line 3 foot and stuff. I kind of made descriptions of how I was gonna make that work off the side. If you look, does it show you guys? Yeah, maybe not. It does not. Okay, but anyway, the bushes, I was basically on the north side. I was looking to put DWF burning bushes. They average 6 to 8 foot tall and wide. The trees I'm looking to put a red oak full growth is 60 foot by 40 foot wide. The ground cover I would be looking just for bluegrass, because again, at one of them meetings they said I'm taking so much area away, they like to see it be grass all the way through. That's basically talking on the north side. If we move to the east side, that becomes a bigger issue. If you look at it, we have a driveway coming in, and then we've got awful deep terrace there, which is 19 foot 9 inches. Then we got a 4 by 10 sidewalk. So with that truck coming in there, and then I've got a grease interceptors what is existing, which has 24 foot there. So that I'm just kind of going off what they had when I purchased the property is what I did. I just took that 10 foot and went over to the south as far as I possibly could to make the truck be able to fit through. So, again, I put another red oak in there and some of them burning bushes in there, and the rest of it would be green grass. The waiver I'm looking for is for that space of what I need to be able to get a vehicle around the building, because the south side is going to the property line the building is. So that's basically what I'm here for. If you have any questions. Did you? Yeah.
So from the sidewalk
Which side?
on the north side to
Yes.
the building is 21 feet. Is that what that's indicating?
24, no, on the east side, I guess I don't got it. It's actually 41.6 from the building to the west side of the sidewalk. On the east side.
So I'm saying from the north side though,
Yes, north side would be 21
it's
foot.
21.
And that's right to the south side of the sidewalk.
And reasonably, I don't know the metrics, I guess.
Sure.
Reasonably for a vehicle, what kind of vehicle are you talking about?
We're looking at those big cube trucks, what come in.
Like a U-Haul, consider it like when you
Probably
say a
bigger
cube
than
truck?
that, because sometimes, well, I load from the west side, but also.
Because they're drive-through, are they?
Which ones?
Your garages?
One of them
'Cause-
is.
Okay.
The trucks wouldn't be able to come through the garage, and I wouldn't
wouldn't,
want
okay.
that either. I'm just making sure whether I have my tenants, or not tenants, my employees drive, I would like them to come on the east side and be able to drive through without going to Omaha Avenue and then come to the alley access to get to the other side. Just the inconvenience of the traffic at 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
I believe the trucks you're speaking of are kind of like a rider truck.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
they're pretty much like the largest U-Haul that you see
Right.
out there.
And realistically, how wide are those trucks? Do you know?
They're probably 12, maybe.
12 feet
13,
wide.
something like that. And then give a couple foot, and then if you note, there is a signage, what's a foot off the building, closer to the west side, on the north side of that building. There's a signage pole there, which takes away, the sign itself is up high enough where it can go underneath it. It's just the pole what gives it stability.
And on that east side, east of the sidewalk,
Yep.
there's a significant amount of terrace. That's about 20 feet there.
Yes, yeah, there is.
How much square foot, Val, would he need without asking for a waiver?
He put that on this extra one. So the north side, it looks like if you were to go that total 10 feet, you would have 1280 square feet, and he's giving us 676. And then on the east side, because you're not going to duplicate that 10 feet, so you come down 10 feet from the north and then start the east side, 610, but with all the driveway and that in there, it would be 26 square feet. So you're shy about 11, close to 1,200 square feet between the two sides.
Was this paper up on the board, what I gave you?
Yeah, that's what's up right now.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't look up, I seen, yep.
I'm just trying to, I mean, I'm okay with I guess I can save it for discussion. I'm okay with allowing the waiver, but I need a little more, I think. If we can fit, instead of 2 feet, going 5 feet, that at least jumps the square footage a little bit and adds a little bit, I mean, 2 feet you're looking, that's not a whole
Yeah.
lot of green space, right?
Right, and I'm gonna have curb on both sides, so that does limit it even more.
Right.
I know I don't need a curb, but I think for cosmetics looks and just keeping debris, curb is good. So I'll have a curb line throughout that whole, area.
And obviously, anything, you know, I live down there, I see it, it's kind of a little bit of an eyesore to begin with. I
sure.
understand that, and so anything is better than nothing, but I would like to see a little bit more if we could.
More on which side or?
On that north side, if, you know, if it's feasible to get a truck through at, you know, 16 feet, you know, but I understand that's
six-
also tight, 1.5 feet on each side, I get it.
And then trucks coming in, they just have to be more cautious. 2 foot is what I was shooting for, and everybody's gotta shoot for a dimension,
Sure.
so, you know, 5 foot is a doable. You know, my concern with the 2 foot is growth, you know, what you guys want in that space. 2 foot does not really allow much, and that's why I kinda left that open to what to do there, but, that's.
Because I'm thinking like a regular 4-foot sidewalk, you got 5 feet of green space. I mean, you got a sidewalk full of green space. That's what I'm trying to, you know, look at in my mind is, oh, that's a nice little area, you know. Try to give it at least something.
Yep.
And even though the terrace is right away, would it be possible to substitute something into that area to compensate for the lack? If Tom was willing to plant a few trees or something in the terrace, is that doable?
If you want to do something like that, provide the waiver of the green space, but in exchange, put something else out in the terrace, like a few more trees or something like that. I mean, I think that's up to you as part of the waiver if you wanted to put something like that in there.
Val, I have a couple comments on this. Is this gonna be, are you renovating the building altogether?
No,
or
just basically making it a space bigger, and it's just gonna be storage. It's not gonna be anything but.
Okay. Are you gonna be replacing the sidewalk?
No need to. It's in good condition.
As far as putting something in the terrace on the north side, it's pretty narrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you'd really be able to fit any trees in there, especially being
Need those.
NDOT right away.
I guess I was thinking on
I
Third
was
Street.
more or less speaking of the east side where the
Yeah.
terrace
Right.
is rather wide.
Correct. Yep, I would agree with that. The other thing I noticed too, when I pulled this up on the Madison GIS, Val,
Yeah,
there's, it looks like there's an extra right-of-way, maybe on the south side at 5903.
South side of where? Of the building?
South side of, the sidewalk, basically, on the north side. So Val, I don't know if you can click on that parcel.
Wasn't aware of the right of way. North side of the building, south side of sidewalk?
So that, what she has highlighted there in
Oh, yeah.
red?
Yeah, I did see that, when we had our discussion with permits and codes. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's, with that right of way being there, what you might be able to put in there, or,
Well, that was part of the driveway, what I was looking to be, if that has, I mean, what's the definition of right of way? Is it meaning that nobody can drive on it? And it's up to you guys to tell me I have to plant trees and bushes in there, or what is that?
I think that would fall under I think it would be DOT right
Okay.
away.
Okay.
So we'd have to look at that and their
Yeah,
requirements,
I never
but,
investigated that at all. I know I seen it when we had the meeting with permits and codes, but I never went that direction.
so that might be something we need to look into.
What would that be if they title it that? I mean, what are they saying, DOT? What would be their thoughts?
I believe you can't build a permanent structure into their right of way.
Right, and we're
Right.
not looking.
So if you're
so
putting
we're-
landscape in there and redoing some
Oh.
curb and stuff, that would probably be okay. I think they might just have it reserved, like in case they were ever to widen the street or something like that, but it's something we might need to look at a little bit further
Or they say no
with
bushes
that,
and
but.
trees in there, right?
No,
Come on, guys. Tuesday morning, let's have some fun.
that might hurt you a little bit, because then I'd push it even further south for you,
Right.
but.
Oh, existing building.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway.
Okay, so
I
then
hear
on
what
that,
you're saying.
and then, so as far as sidewalk and everything on the east side, that's all staying existing sidewalk as well?
Yes, it's
Okay.
good condition, no
Okay.
cracks or anything in it.
So Val, with this, with the renovation and everything, that kicks in the highway corridor overlay requirements, correct?
Yeah, that's why we're here today, asking for the waiver of the landscaping, because he's doing kind of he's fixing up the current building and then putting an L on that south side, so he's adding to the building for his plumbing business. So that's why the highway corridor kicked in, yeah.
Is there, I guess this is for the waiver for landscaping. Do we have a full plan for building facade and everything else?
No, we don't have that yet, but I asked him if he can follow the building requirements, and he said yes. So that's why he's not asking for the building along with this, yeah.
Yeah, the building
So you
itself.
can get the 30% of
The preferred
aesthetically
material.
pleasing, or whatever the
Yeah,
terminology is.
Tom, do you plan on continuing to utilize the wash bays in the building?
For, business use, but not as for a car wash.
So you'd need to retain the grease interceptor.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to get rid of that. That's something future, whatever, could happen. Not car wash, but after I'm dead and gone, somebody else might want to do something different.
Would it be feasible for 4 foot?
For north side or
North, north
what?
side?
I would just have to bring that truck in and see what it is. You know, we talked, those trucks are 13 or so, and, you know, let me put my scale to it, 3/16. I'm giving myself 2 foot from there. You guys agree about 13 for the truck? I think? You think, yeah? So it's another 2 foot. Well, what I see is about 6 inches. I gave 2 foot on each side of the 13 truck. And I have about 6 inches in between the curb line of what I have to that. You see what I'm getting? Unless you guys want me to close me down more than 2 foot on each side of the truck. I think that's with the elephant mirrors and the mirrors what they might have on their trucks and stuff. That's going to be the in question. You know, unless we ask them to close their mirrors. And sometimes the older trucks don't have that option.
Do we
I
need
just-
to look into what you were talking about with DOT?
Yeah,
Is this something that we need to put to a date certain?
What'd
Because
be
of the,
If we table it, Tom, it has to be brought back up at the next meeting. If we postpone it to a date certain, then we don't have to hear it again the next meeting. We can wait till the meeting after. Or
Till
and what are we waiting for?
for guidance from DOT
Okay.
on their,
we don't want to have you put something in and then they say.
Yeah, my
well,
question, are your concerns is the vegetation or the trees and stuff, or are you looking at the curb line?
Well, I think that, I mean, the main concern is how much can we get to be absolutely certain that we're getting the most vegetation, green space? And then we can, I mean, I'm on board with the terrace on the east side,
Right?
subbing that to do it. But I'm also concerned about what DOT, get the clearance from DOT before you start all the project and then, well, DOT shuts it down. I don't want that either.
I would have thought developing the overlay, we would have been in discussion with DOT, seeing that they have
Because it's just not.
say in what goes in these areas, that can we even dictate they put landscaping there in a DOT right away?
I was gonna say that, but
Yeah, I'm not a DOT expert. I guess I thought it was similar to another right-of-way that, you know, we have certain things that you can't put in there. You can't put evergreens and that sort of thing. Just for sight distance between, like in the terrace, between the sidewalk and the curb is where you're getting that sight distance. We can certainly verify if that's what you would like to do.
is that something I have to review, or you guys would review, or what do you guys want to do on that DOT issue? If it is what Marty just said, I don't know if it would be, because like I said, it's been running this way way before me and us guys, any of us, because that jet wash has been there for years. So, and that's always been a flat pavement there, so I don't know about the green and, if
Well, that's new because of the overlay district.
right,
I believe
think-
there's always been signage in that right of way for jet wash.
yes,
And things, so unless that was grandfathered in,
and
would
that's on the
DOT claim
property.
that? It's not in that,
Well, no, because it's close to the building,
okay.
yeah, it's close to the building.
I was thinking there was a vacuum or something there on the corner that was clear out, encroaching on the sidewalk at one time.
Yeah, there's a vacuum close to the northeast corner. The other vacuums were in the middle of the building, so it would not get in that corridor, as you guys call it. So, I don't know what they were gonna say.
So with that, I think since it's right away, I think you would have to get a permit from the DOT for building in the right of way would be one thing, but, if you have time, you know, you could come in, and talk with myself and Steve Ramus, the city engineer. We could kind of look at that a little bit closer for requirements on that right of way. I think the other thought too here is, as far as the highway corridor overlay and the DOT, most of what we're requiring is on the property side of
Not
the
green
right of way.
space.
Can you bring that diagram up it shows the red rectangle?
Because usually, I mean, with the highway corridor, we're requiring, you know, a green space and everything 10-foot property side,
If you were,
so,
if you were working strictly on the property side, this project wouldn't be feasible.
correct.
Right, to get a drive-through, a waiver on that north side. I agree with that.
Yeah, because if you were going from the south side of right-of-way, then you'd be right up next to your building.
Yeah.
But is there, I know you want to drive through, you know, be able to drive around, but given that you have access on both sides,
It appears to me that some of the green space will be in that right of way.
Oh, 100%. I believe that, true.
right, that section looks like it measures about 12 feet.
So, and you guys thinking DOT might shut down the green space period?
This is the first time we've dealt with this, with the highway corridor overlay.
Yeah.
I don't know why it hasn't come up in the
Who's the
past.
engineer was with us on that permit meeting? He talked about it.
Yeah, Steve Ramus, so I wish
It
he
was
was.
Steve?
Yeah, I wish he was here this
Yeah,
morning.
because he's the one who kind of adopted this little drive-through, and he said it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a problem with the DOT, if you were to put, you know, curb and everything and some bushes and things like that, some landscaping, I think they'd be okay with it. But knowing that if the time came that they needed that right away, then they would, you know, take that for their use. But I think you'd still need to fill out a permit with
I
them.
gotcha. And as long as they're okay with everything, I'm okay with it, and if that day comes, I guess that day comes. Then I'd be driving around, basically what you're saying.
Well, yeah, and in the, I guess, instance that this happens, it'll be a learning experience for us also. If the DOT decides we're gonna widen that highway by 3 feet,
Right,
and then it eats up your projected amount of green space,
Right.
what happens in that instance?
We kind of have something like that in code currently for like signs and things like that, that it's nothing that the property owner has done. Someone has essentially
Okay.
taken their property, so
Something beyond their
we
control.
don't, yeah, we don't penalize them for something that like a DOT or city has done for right of way.
so you believe this will probably move forward as far as the green space and that option with DOT? Is that what you're thinking?
Do you guys want us to check with DOT? Do you want to close the public hearing and then table the next one and find out a couple answers?
I think just to be on the safe side, I know we haven't really gone through this before with DOT, but I mean, would that make anyone more comfortable, I guess? But I also give you some time also to come back, and added that with the terrace on that east side, what the square footage with that would be to offset some of the, your lacking of square footage in other places on that north side specifically.
And just be objective of what you guys are thinking on that east side, I would say, I'm not against it.
Because I'm also like, it's not impossible to get to the other side of your building.
Without going off on the road, yes. It would be
Correct. I mean, you
impossible.
can still go out on Omaha,
Yes.
come
Going
around.
down to Hendricks.
Right. So it's not like it's impossible to get to the other side.
Correct.
This is a straight convenience type of thing, and I understand that. I'm not unaware.
Is there,
If Tom's willing to work, with us on the east side there, and DOT doesn't have any concerns, I think we, move forward on this.
Yeah, I don't have any concern with it, I guess. It's just, it's gonna look better than it
Oh,
has.
yeah, I mean, the building's not gonna go away anytime soon.
Right.
So this is probably the best you can expect to do with it, and it will make a significant difference in that neighborhood.
Right, I agree, I
Right now,
agree.
it's like,
Yeah.
you drive past that building,
It's a sea of concrete and a blue building.
is there a way to approve the waiver with the conditions of,
Of DOT, it checks out with DOT.
I like
as long
that.
as it's approved by DOT.
Is that,
That would limit meetings.
is that legitimate?
You can put that in the waiver, I think, just like putting
cup?
something that you would ask for trees in the eastern terrace as an offset potentially. Because we've kind of treated this like a cup, so you kind of give us what you want us to write in this thing, we bring it back next time. So that week and a half gives us time to have Steve Ramos or Anna make a call to DOT. We can put that in there, just so that it's in there. But then I hope that would then give them time to kind of get that question answered. So by the time you actually approve anything,
It's confirmed.
you have an answer.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that I'd be fine with that or comfortable with that.
So push this back to the next time, are you saying?
No.
No, I
No.
think,
It would
yeah.
Close the public hearing, and we'd open up for discussion and, just add some of the conditions and, for the
Yeah, it'd
resolution.
be the east side, I mean, as long as DOT's everything good on the north side, it'd be the east side. Don't know what you guys would be wanting, if it goes back to the code of the overlay, or would it be just add a few trees, or am I gonna have to do the bushes and all that? That'd be in question too on the east side, because it's something I'd have to do.
I would say it'd be something negotiable, but comparative to what we're allowing you not to put on the north side to move
Yeah, and I'm all into that terrace still, whatever you guys want, just as long as it's not where I have to have all these bushes and everything, a few trees, a few bushes, because I do like to, I have some ideas of landscaping on that terrace, and that was gonna be, who was I supposed to talk to? They said I was gonna do some landscaping, and I had to talk to some,
I don't
a
remember.
statue I was looking to put in there or something, and he said to talk to, and then they would own it.
Oh, you wanted to potentially put like an art sculpture
Yeah,
in kind of that northeast corner. So I said maybe he talks to the art council
yeah,
or
that's what
something
they
like
said,
that.
art council. But anyway, like I said, I'm all for whatever you guys wanna do on the east side, as long as it don't get too crazy.
Thought maybe you'd put a fountain in or something there,
Yeah,
or a statue,
yeah.
statue of Tom Buckholz in the middle
Right,
of it.
right, there you go. Blue water, spooting out,
What about the west side of the property?
that's an alley. And then it goes to Skill Gas, and they just haven't done nothing there, and then I own the other property alongside Skill Gas, so.
It's just, I can't speak for the other commissioners, but I'm more comfortable with substituting something rather than just letting you not do it, you know, and something.
Yeah, and I understand that east side is very thin.
But I mean, I also, when it, you know, the way it comes down, I like, you know, in the corners of the lot, I think that, I mean, it's a good look,
Yeah,
so.
and you are making up some ground in there by going further in those corners than you're required to, but
Yep.
it's still not putting a dent in the overall square footage that would be
Right.
required otherwise.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you, Tom.
You bet, thank you very much.
Anyone else like to speak on behalf of this topic? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I think now it's just time to give Val some conditions that we have talked about, so make sure she can get some put in the resolution. I would just say the maximum amount possible for a 13-foot truck, or whatever the average would be on that north side. And adding the appropriate vegetation, green space into that terrace. And as far down that east side, would it be also possible to look at widening that 2 foot on the east side? Possibly. I don't know that answer, I
Tom?
guess, but.
Is there any way to widen the 2 feet on the east side, that little finger that comes down at all?
That's that space, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, this little,
That could widen a tad, but the thing is, it's such a sharp turn there. You know, if you widen it, then you gotta make that turn, and then that space in between there, that 13-foot or 16-foot is gonna almost have to be bigger, because as you know, a truck or a car, when they turn, they take more space.
What about if you just did that straight across triangle, closing off that triangle? It'd give you a little bit more.
Me and Val talked about that, we did talk about that, and if it's doable, and the truck can get through, like I said, what I did is I had the truck come through, and marked it, and then kinda laid out that way, but if, to make a triangle, like you said, that's probably doable, because if I can make that angle there, I should be able to make it northeast,
Right.
so, I'm good with that.
All right.
As long as we don't go past it, because there's a light post there and pole there, so I think we'd be further north of the light pole, so I'm good with that, if you guys are good with that.
And then including the terrace into his square footage?
yeah, I mean, that really is an extra large terrace. I mean, it's probably about double than what normal
The
ones
usual
are.
is, yeah.
That
So,
would be my concern on that too, is huge.
Any other specifics? Anything else that you would need, Val, from us?
so I guess what I have here is putting something in to make the maximum amount of green space possible while keeping the turning for the average width of the
Radius
truck.
appropriate, yeah.
Adding the appropriate green space of shrubbery and trees. Essentially trying to cut this corner and add more green space in here. And then adding trees to the eastern terrace. And so for,
And then contingent upon approval of DOT.
That DOT, do you want me to call them, or we both should call to find out?
do you want to work with him, Anna, and you
Yeah.
guys call together?
Okay.
Okay.
We'll just decide.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. And so just so that I have this also as part of the resolution, kind of the hardships, if you kind of agree with what Tom had put in his application, that essentially the strict application of the zoning would produce undue hardship, true or false, mainly because of traffic circulation. And similar to, well, you're pretty much having the same hardship for all
each
of
one, and
them
then-
essentially.
And there's no, I mean, not necessarily saving, it doesn't come down to a financial piece necessarily, so.
Is there anything else you would like me to put in there? Any reasons for hardship that you want me to track into the resolution?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'll get that written up for next time.
All right, thank you, Val. I'd take a motion on that.
I move to approve, have city staff prepare a resolution for discussion and action at the next regular scheduled planning commission meeting to allow a waiver of the highway overlay district requirements on property addressed as 1300 South 13th Street.
Should be third, sorry.
Should be Third
Yeah.
Street.
Typo.
I'd like to amend that motion to read 1300 South Third Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Thank you. Consideration of the recommendation of the final plat of the Norfolk shop condos. Val?
So Nick Hoffman, the engineer, is here if you have questions for him, but this is actually the first condo plat that we're doing. We put that code in place here, I don't know, I lose track of time, a month or two ago. And this is our first condo plat. It's not going to have a subdivision agreement like a regular plat because the plat is actually made, so this is essentially just taking that one lot and then splitting it up into the various parcels of each unit, the driveway, essentially the ingress egress, and then kind of the open space as outlots. So that's kind of what you see here. And as it moves forward to council, we've asked that it's essentially an HOA. I mean, somebody needs to operate this because you have a lot of common space. By state statute, you have to have like a declarations of how it's going to operate. We would not approve that because that's really not our place to say how they operate
Up
this
to
thing.
them,
But you need both of the plat and the declaration filed to make that condo regime. So we'll just file them both at the same time. So that is what you're seeing here. Each of these units, if this goes through, will be actual sellable units then. But
for-
they won't own any of the land around them. That would be part of the condo regime.
And for clarification, these are they not livable?
Correct, this is I-1, so no one can live here. What we were told their intention was, you know, somebody has a classic car that they want to work on the weekends, or somebody has a business that they've kind of outgrown, so, and then they want to come in during the day and pack their shipping stuff, you know, so.
And
it
is there a business? You can't operate a business out of there either?
In I-1, you probably can, and so that's why during pre-plannings, we actually talk to them, because it's not just a storage unit at that point in time, if they want that secondary use there.
Right.
And so there will be a bathroom with like a stool and a sink, but no shower, so we don't want people to say, I'll buy that and then live there, you know, we don't want to encourage that. But if you're gonna have workers there, or you're gonna be there all Saturday, you may want a restroom of some sort, so they will be set up in that form.
All right. Thank you, Val.
It wouldn't be over-the-counter sales business run out of there, it would just be like a plumber's shop or something like that.
Right, something that's not going to have customers coming, because there's no customer parking. I mean, as far as I
Wouldn't
can,
have any employee parking either, you know.
yeah, the only parking you would have would be on the apron in front of your essentially garage door.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't have required parking necessarily.
All right, I'd take a motion.
Motion to approve, consideration and recommendation of the final plat of Norfolk Shop Condos.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, consideration of approval of the preliminary plat of the Beckman Edition. Al?
I'll start this off too. The owner is here, so if you have questions, I can, do I have it up here? Let's see. So we're kind of on the east side of town. This is Channel Road. Madison Villas is across the street here. So this is kind of a large piece of property that is currently zoned R1. And so you really cannot advertise for sale a piece of property without having something in place, at least a preliminary plat. And so that is what you're seeing here. So all of these are an acre or less, just to be consistent with what the current zoning is. If somebody wants to buy this whole thing, say here, and then zone change it at that point in time for an apartment, then something else needs to be done to it. But to be able to put that out there and give somebody an idea of for sale, you really can't just say, do what you want with this piece of land without at least something that's come through you guys first, and then they can phase it out as final plans at that point in time.
So right now, it's not broken down into anything. Can you go back to that other picture? Mm-hmm. That's how it's zoned, just R1 as is?
Right.
Okay.
It's just one large, what is it? 13 acres, 13 and a half acres.
And so you're just looking to break them up, make sure to advertise it as needed?
That zoning does comply with the comp plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's residential around
yeah.
there, yeah.
My name is Sue Beckman, and my husband and I own that property over there. We've had a couple of inquiries into that property already, and so we thought we'd better have it surveyed. And I did talk to Brianna on page 54. It is my typo. It is listed as 13.11 acres and is actually 13.51, just to clarify. The plat is correct, but We had Schroeder do a survey for us, because we just wanted to know for sure what was there, and he kind of helped us come up with a schematic in case somebody would like to buy, because there's been a lot of interest in housing and affordable housing in the area.
Sure.
So we just thought we'd kind of maybe get the first step out of the way, and if something comes to fruition, fine. If it doesn't, my kids will deal with it after I'm gone, so.
Thank you, Sue. Makes sense.
There's no further discussion. I'll make a motion to consider approval of the preliminary plat of Beckman Addition.
Second that motion.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Consideration of the recommendation of a sidewalk waiver requested by Granville Custom Homes, Janet Anderson, and David and Cindy Christofferson for properties located at 2200 North 26th Street, 2206 through 2218 North 26th Street, and Outlot C.
Good morning, Stephen Romikers with Granville Custom Homes, 4514 Howard Boulevard, Columbus, Nebraska. Yeah, so that picture is pretty accurate. Basically, these lots are double frontage lots, and we're developing that ground and building the houses as we go. We had not built any sidewalks against North 26th. I might have labeled that wrong.
It's actually 25th Street,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's North 25th. So we hadn't been building sidewalks against that blacktop road. There's a road ditch there. And we're, of course, putting sidewalks in front of our homes on what is North 26, which isn't labeled there. Yeah, right there. So that had been the practice. And then about halfway through, I don't know about the fourth or fifth house we built, Steve Nordhus didn't approve our occupancy permit, and his hangup was that there's supposed to be a sidewalk in that road ditch on North 25th. But we had always understood with the city engineering department that we wouldn't be putting sidewalks there because they were going to be, eventually that road's got to get redone, probably into a 3-lane with a curb and gutter, and so all that would have to be tore out. Right now, the way the road ditch is graded, we couldn't put sidewalks through there that would meet the ADA requirements. So all of that was sort of understood, and it hadn't been really been brought up. And then Steve Nordhus got the idea that, well, it technically should be there. Nobody was really pushing back from the engineering department that that was a good idea, but it just become like, how do we resolve it? So it's been kind of just sitting as an open wound for quite a long time, and I had proposed maybe we could do something in a development agreement or some sort of, I don't know, note to the city code, but they said the only process they have is through the sidewalk waiver. So I brought sidewalk waivers for those particular homes because the Anderson home is the one where the final occupancy permit was denied. Essentially what that means is she's been living there for a year and can't get sewer and water bill in her name, so we pay it and then she reimburses us, which is absurd. And the other projects, the Christofferson townhome there, we just got done building that. So I had been holding off thinking the city was gonna solve this somehow on their own, but I keep being routed back to this process. So we joined that group together for a waiver, and then I still own that townhome on the corner, which we use as a model home. That's still in my name, so I brought waivers for the stuff that was in my name and for the clients that were along that stretch right there.
Was it platted with sidewalks?
Was it platted with sidewalks?
Or was the development plan brought with sidewalks?
Yes, the plat, every plat has a sidewalk note on there that says any property against a a public right-of-way or a road right-of-way shall have sidewalks at the time of building. So, yes, that is why when that plat was filed and signed and approved, that you needed sidewalks on both sides, and the only way, we as staff cannot speak for you and council to just say, you don't have to do that. This is the process that we have for somebody to ask to not to follow the platting process and sidewalk requirements.
So I want to make sure that was the case. I don't necessarily think it's anyone's fault. It's if it was there, you had to put them in, you know? That's the biggest thing.
Sure, but they wouldn't make sense to go in there. First of all, the grade doesn't conform to it. Second of all, they're gonna be eventually taken back out when that gets redone. Third, there already is, you know, unlike probably some other neighborhoods, we have parallel streets running with North 25th. So if somebody actually were to try to walk in that area, they have sidewalks available to them to go north and south. Unless they wanted to walk next to the county road, but
In our master plan for our biking trails, shared use trails, sidewalks, things like that, that area along the west side of 25th Street is, in the future, supposed to be a multi-use path. So that'd be a 10-foot wide trail, essentially. So with that, you know, I think when we put that in, the city does a cost share. So they would pay for the sidewalk, we'd pay for the overbuild on that. So that is marked to be a trail when that does go in. And I think we've had that.
Subcommittee, we had
I think we've had that conversation before, right?
with, obviously it doesn't make sense to put it in if it's gonna be redeveloped in the next year or two anyways.
And normally, when we grant a sidewalk waiver, we require you to do proper grading should a sidewalk be ordered in the future. So you can't just say the grade was not, you know,
right, but it's a road
suitable
ditch.
to have. I don't care whether it takes a retaining wall or whatever it takes.
Okay.
You can't just say that, you know, you're the developer, you're the builder, you do the grading. You should anticipate having to follow city code of having a sidewalk in there. And even if we do grant you the waiver, usually we put that contingency in there that in the future, you should always, don't plant trees in there, do your final grading and stuff to accommodate a sidewalk should one be ordered in.
I imagine when the curb and gutter when this road section goes away and either a storm sewer goes in along there or whatever else happens, that grade is gonna be completely different than what it looks like today.
And there are abutting sidewalks. Like, so if we were to approve the waiver, doesn't that just come right back to like, hey, you gotta put them in?
Yeah, normally that is something that is standard, like Martin said, we put that caveat in there that as you build, you will grade, you know, for the future sidewalk, and don't put landscaping and things like that that will then have to be ripped out. That can probably be, you know, put in there, at least landscaping, no rocks, no, that sort of thing. And yeah, we normally say until abutting sidewalks. There are abutting sidewalks, obviously. I mean, you can see it right here. So you may want to give another recommendation to city council other than until abutting sidewalks. So if there's a,
Until like 20, I just throw it out there, in a subcommittee, they talked about maybe within the next 2 years.
2 to 4 years.
So 28, putting it out till 2028?
So 4 years or until 25th Street is reconstructed, whichever is first or earlier or something like that.
Right.
I think that's kind of what we talked about with Steve Ramus in subcommittee.
Right.
I know there's been talk of ordering in sidewalks that have fallen through the cracks over the years, but I kind of know that's a touchy subject
Yeah.
with elected officials.
We've let it, if you don't set precedent, at some point, it just kind of falls apart, and then we end up like Woodland Park with no sidewalks, so. But, I mean, I think I get it, it's not, I just wanted to make sure that in the future, if you're gonna put in the sidewalks, just make sure that, or if you're gonna put in the plat with the development, just make sure it's hard-nosed that you gotta put it in. I don't like developers relying on the sidewalk waiver as a tool to, pinch pennies here and there. I get it, it's expensive, but we gotta start somewhere with sidewalks. So.
I don't disagree with you, but this section isn't amenable to sidewalks, and it doesn't make sense. And I think that's why it was being okayed, but then I think Steve Ramus thought he didn't want to get himself in trouble, although he approved all the other homes that are already built without sidewalks on there. So I don't know why I don't know what changed, honestly. So, and I talked to Dennis Watts I've been talking to Steve Ramus for years on this, and it's always been like, oh, we'll figure something out, but then ultimately I'm told it's by waiver. I thought, well, that's not really a comprehensive solution, but if that's how I can move forward without paying people's water bills after they move in.
And I understand this was in your conversation with the engineering department from the beginning, that 25th Street was slated to be redeveloped or reconstructed, and so I can kind of see why you're in this position now.
Sure. I mean, we're building the trail, the 8-foot trail, the sidewalk size has gone to 5 feet. We're building them. It's not like I'm trying to skirt some development obligations, but it wouldn't make any sense to put this in, and and I'm fighting, on the flip side, I'm being told I can't change the grade at the road ditch, so.
Rock and a hard spot?
Well, it just seems like common sense. I wish I'd intervened much earlier, but here we are. I would ask that the waiver be granted, or at least I should say recommended.
I would, as we discussed, as part of the motion, just with the 2028 or the completion of the development of 25th Street.
I do have a question for you. When 25th Street gets redeveloped, how will those sidewalks go in? When you Steve's here. When you redo 25th Street, does that become like a sidewalk improvement district or a pavement improvement district, or what happens there?
It's very possible that as part of the project, that there would be a sidewalk district there. There'll be a conversation when that time comes that, there is a homeowner responsibility to provide that sidewalk. And so since there's no sidewalk there, that would, we'd have that conversation with council and see where council wanted to go with that. But since they're not there, I would say it's likely there would be a sidewalk district that would be assessed to the homeowner, yes.
Okay. But I don't know that the circumstances are going to change until North 25th Street is
Complete.
redone. So I don't know that would make sense to say till such and such a time or until this thing is redone. I think it would probably make sense to say when North 25th Street becomes a curb and gutter section, that's when the sidewalks would go in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would be fine with that. I mean, it's not, you had mentioned the next 2 years.
Yeah, I would foresee, we intended to start design last year. We just didn't have the resources to really push forward on that. So that is under contract now with McClory Engineering for design. They'll start off with some open house meetings and public conversation here this fall. Kind of expect the next nine months or so, 9 to 12 months will be design. There'll probably be another year then potentially for any utility relocations that would need to occur in the corridor. And then that would
So I guess I'm fine with just until the completion of 25th Street and not necessarily putting a date on it, because they can't come back for another waiver, can they?
We would prefer not to do that. We'd prefer, you know, if it's a 5-year waiver, however, the waiver would terminate upon issuance of a construction contract or creation of a sidewalk district.
And, yeah, I'd like to just leave it open-ended at that point, because it sounds like it's something that's, you know, imminent, you know.
Things happen though, that things go
Correct.
from the 1 and 6 to the 10 and 12.
10 and 12, I know. So,
Are we still in public hearing?
no, it's not a public hearing, you're good.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the Consider recommendation of a sidewalk waiver requested by Granville Custom Homes, Janet Anderson, and David and Cindy Christofferson for properties located at 2200 North 25th Street, 2206 through 2218 North 25th Street, and Outlaw C, with the added, call it condition of 25th Street being developed.
A motion to second, please vote.
All commission members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Any other open topics or concerns? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Steve, talk Legacy Ben.
What's that?
Talk Legacy Ben.
I don't know Legacy Ben, don't tell people that.
Well, in recent conversations with them, it sounds like they're pretty much going to possess themselves. That's right. So there's a guy who's not laid out in your thought cap. Already. If you're looking to do any tipping, that whole project was set up as a tip project. So if we were to consider building in there, the other thing is, I think you're aware of the changes we made in our R1 and so R1 district now, we're R1, you can actually do duplexes, you do.
So you mean like single family town?
Well, you can do, right, so you can do a townhouse.
Two units.
Yeah. But there was, yeah, just maybe touch base with Al, she's wanted to, or well, there's that change, but there was that change. It's very different. May, a lot of the erosion, a lot of the stuff, it's just different opportunities available over there and taken care of in that area. Some has been filled. I know you've got Blackberry up there, you're not, and that's what we usually push from, but Blackberry's really not. What is my responsibility?
They're different neighborhoods, yeah.
That's not a tip, correct, not a tip project. Are we saying, yes, check the boxes, yes, area that is typical, because it's in a blank standard page, so, you know.
Are they gonna divest the lots or all the land?
He's the expert on this.
They want, I believe they want to sell off.
Well, that's not real clear. It used to be fairly clear when it.
They don't want to develop the lots.
They don't, okay, well, that's a little different, you know, what's happening with the lots themselves that are ready to develop? Their price tag on them, they're taking a hit, right? So, what maybe people don't know is like me as a developer who, the tip is the part that makes you get into it, because you've got some cushion,